Hey guys, it's Matt. Welcome back to Midnight Reality, which confuses the hell out of people that live in Portland, Oregon, in the western part of the United States, because this video will load at noon Eastern Time, and they will see it at 9 a.m. But I remind them it is midnight somewhere in the world. Most of the people in the United States don't realize that there's a rest of the world that still exists. People that live in New York City aren't even aware that there are any other cities anywhere in the world. The whole universe is about them. Thanks once again to Wayne for an incredible Midnight Reality drawing. The other sketch with the desktop, that one's from Paul. Wayne has done other drawings for us. The person standing in the middle of the Not Nilk reality, all of this for us. The brain or the mind as the projector of reality itself, all of which we'll return to in the future. Thank you, Wayne. And we have another good one. We'll alternate between Wayne's and Paul's. The top of my computer says Friday, June 2nd. But that doesn't mean anything to me. It should mean nothing to anyone. I ascribe more to what Tom Cruise said in The Last Samurai, where he was stranded with those primitives. He said, winter, 1876. Day unknown, month unknown. That's exactly where we are right now. Doesn't matter what some calendar says. Month unknown, day unknown, year unknown, century, and millennium to us is unknown. I have a calendar I'm looking at right now called Fat Cats. It's cats that are 20 to 30 pounds overweight. I'm not joking. This month's cat is a tabby that must weigh 40 pounds. And the calendar and everything this reality does, it tries to comfort people like a Linus blanket. It feeds people information. It needs to be believed in more than anything else. It says, this is where you are in the universe, even though it bounces from Sagittarius belt to Orion's belt. Here's where you are in time. It gives you a calendar, and you feel all warm and special, like you just bought brake pads with a guarantee on the box. This reality has to do that stuff so people feel comfortable with it. In fact, we don't know where the hell we are. We don't know when the hell we are. It's basically the call of the Fagari tribe. Have you heard of the call of the Fagari tribe? So where the fuck are we? If science and academia, if that's a word, and authority was at all honest, they would say, well, we got to give you this calendar because you can't miss your lunch appointment. We need a common set of metrics and standards so you can get together with your other 3 or 4 geriatric friends and you can compare notes on your ailments so you can put that moat between you and death. We will operate from the same calendar, but if they were honest, they'd say, we have no idea. No idea when we are, where we are. That we have even, they're so inconsistent. Guys, I don't know if this is your perspective because I'm getting older myself, but when I was in my teens and 20s, I assure you they said the universe was 3 to 4 billion years old. I haven't looked for years, but I remember looking and it's now 6 or 7. It bounces around and they don't miss by 10 million years. They miss by billions or they're inconsistent by billions of years. It's like trying to track your grandmother's age down somewhere between 85 and Methuselah, which was about 900. They're all over the place. Science and authority in this place, in this time period, is a joke. If you're a university professor that has your doctorate, so people have to call you doctor, even though you can't lay hands on nobody like no medical doctor, they have to still call you doctor because you got your PhD, you should be ashamed of yourself. Matt, don't be mean to people that could be listening. Do you think there's somebody that's a professor at a large university or a small liberal bastion hellhole like Bard College or Wesleyan or Vassar that listens to this channel or follows along with our conspiracy? Are you kidding me? Do you think there are links to this channel from the Atlantic Magazine website? Why are you insulting them in the first place? All they're doing is regurgitating back to young minds the same lies that the Not Nilk system told them without any free thinking in the middle like an ice cream sandwich. How pathetic is that? Guys, I paused for 30 seconds and I looked on Google. What is the current age of the universe? Over 13. It's up to 13 billion years old. I assure you, it was 3 or 4 billion when I was a kid. They're not off by 10 million. They're not off. Guess My Age, Honey is a game show. They're off. They change it by 5 to 8 billion every few years. What did it come back when I'm in my 70s? I was like, the universe is 5 trillion years old. Everybody knows that, Matt. By the age of the universe bouncing around all over the place like a bad Mandela effect, you know what it tells you? It tells you they don't know anything. They have no idea. How would they, let's say it's over 13 billion. How would they know that? Is anybody right now trying to tell me about carbon dating? Maybe there's some legitimacy to that. You can pull a rock out of the dirt and do something called carbon dating. I don't understand. I don't understand none of it. But you can't do that to the universe. Can I go out to Home Depot here in Lowe's Home Center and get a carbon dating test next to a radon test? And they're like, I mean, how do they possibly determine that it's over 13 billion? Did they extrapolate per the speed of expansion that came from the Big Bang in an illusory universe? I mean, give me a break. These scientists should be ashamed of themselves. Their mother should have disowned them a long time ago. Maybe their more recent experiments do extrapolate information a little bit different from the Big Bang and the expansion rate of stars. And then they said, Matt, this universe is much older than we thought when you were a kid, okay? We're getting new information. Look at your phone, Matt. Doesn't technology advance? Not in medical cures. We'll talk about that some other time. And in terms of your demonic tech, oh yeah, it does. So I see you have new ways to experiment on the universe, to extrapolate information that came from the Big Bang. But see, your experiments are useless because you're telling me that this universe here is so expansive, it's almost infinite. But then all of this came from something that was like 1,000,000 times smaller than the head of a pin called the Big Bang. See, that's impossible, you scientist listening to the sound of my voice. And it violates all your own laws of physics that can't be broken. So that means it's an illusory reality. There is no physical substance base to it whatsoever. These scientific jackasses keep looking for a physical explanation for something where there is no physical explanation because the root of it isn't physical. These decorated scientists that have their 800 score on the SAT, I don't even think they have that anymore. I think the math portion of the SAT is racist, so they removed that. But they've got this, and they've got this award, and this decoration, and their Nobel Prize, and they have their Fields Medal. I don't know if that really exists. I just got that from Good Will Hunting. In Good Will Hunting, that was presented as the math award. I don't know if that really exists or not. But they have a lot of decorations and a lot of things on the wall that they're very, very proud of themselves. But they fail in the only 3 areas that are important. In studying the universe, there's only 3 areas that are important, and they fail in each one. That's a joke. 2 of the 3 areas are at the universe level, out there. 1 is in the very small, the quantum. They fail in all of them. So scientists, who, me? Yeah, come over here. I'm going to talk to you. Sit down, boy. In terms of the universe is expanding, well, everybody knows the universe is expanding. What'd you get on your SATs? I barely passed the math. What is it expanding into? We don't know. You don't know. How much money you make and what you got, tenure and shit? You don't know what it's expanding into. So you fail there. Okay. So it all came from this Big Bang. Well, everybody knows that. It came from a Big Bang, something 1,000,000 times smaller than a pencil. Okay, everybody knows that. That makes sense. Violates all your own laws of physics. Violates Fig Newton's law of thermodynamics 1. Violates Fig Newton's law of thermodynamics 2. But forget that. It's all coming from a Big Bang. Okay. Now, where did all that energy come from? Fine. This current manifestation of the universe came from a Big Bang, but where did that energy come from and where was it before the Big Bang? We don't know. Oh, you don't know that either. So you're now 0 for 2. What's the last area? The quantum, the very small. What's a molecule made out of? Oh, that's atoms. Okay, what's an atom made out of? Everybody knows that. Electron, proton, neutron. What's that made out of? Well, we're discovering those things, what make up electrons and microparticles. The quark, for example, the Higgs boson. Everybody knows that. Well, what are those things made out of? Well, we haven't determined that yet, Matt. You quack. Well, see, you're in a Russian nesting doll situation, sir. You can't keep looking for smaller and smaller parts because, by definition, you eventually have to find something that's made up primarily or exclusively of itself, which is impossible. So in the only 3 areas that matter, the only 3 areas that tell us anything about where we are, the beginning of this presentation established we don't know when we are, you eggheads fail in these major sections. It's just right out of Cocktail. Mr. Flanagan here thinks he can franchise the New York bar with his cocktails and dreams, Tom Cruise and Flanagan. Mr. Flanagan, F! Throws the paper up. You know what I say to you, Harvard, Yale, Cambridge, Oxford, Colgate, Vassar, Wesleyan, little liberal hellholes like Bard College? You know what I say to you, astrophysicists and cosmologists, whatever that is, and your provost, whatever that is? F! You fail in every area, and then you expect $60,000 a year for your brainwashing courses. I say quit your jobs and work at McDonald's, if they'll even take you. The point of all that is an understanding that the universe is not physical at all. It's some sort of crafted construct, illusion, matrix, whatever it may be. We can argue, but it's ridiculous at this point to hold on to a classical physical sciences perspective. I mean, that is just ridiculous. So whatever it may be, matrix, illusion, construct, it's the greatest news of all time to real people. Well, how's that, Matt? Well, it's obvious, isn't it? I guess not, because you just said, how's that, Matt? Well, if the model of the universe actually turned out, as I've said many times recently, we'll move on to other topics, actually turned out to be very close to what Darwin says or what Carl Sagan says, then that brings a gigantic wind into the sail of the atheist argument that this is random, that, you did come from Monkey Man. As it looks more like an illusion, as it looks more even like a matrix, it's the best news of all time because there is no physical sciences perspective that has any basis. It's a construct, whether it's hijacked or it was created by your God or your higher self, it's a construct for you. So some would say it's hijacked and we're here because they're taking our energy. Some would say it's a construct and we're here to learn something for a spiritual self or a part of us that's not here. Some would say we're here to serve a God. But either way, it has nothing to do with any sort. It has no basis whatsoever on a physical perspective. The farther you move from the physical, then you move where? Towards the spiritual. And that's the best news of all time. Even as long as you're in that bucket, it's pretty darn good news. The last thing you want to be is over in Carl Sagan's bucket or Stephen Hawking's bucket, analyzing the physical universe and trying to form the origins of who you are from that mess, that slop. Now, inside the other bucket, there's still the bad news group and the good news group. The bad news group is, okay, it is some sort of illusion, but Matt, there's a bad element here, and they've hijacked it all, and they steal your energy, and when you're done, they'll shit you out of the back of the Saturn Moon Matrix, and you come right back again. There's still in that, it's still actually better to be in this bucket, even in the negative side, than to be over here with Carl Sagan and his ilk. But okay, inside here, we have a disagreement. Some would say, well, that's ridiculous. There might be a being here playing a role that might steal some energy from time to time from those who fall for the trick, but they have no power over you at death. They can't recycle you back. And we do vary in our understanding over here. But remember, it's still, no matter what, it's still better than being with Carl Sagan. Ugh. If none of that made any sense, the summary point is very simple. If you think the world is breaking down, it's becoming a clown show, a bozo show, the news doesn't make sense, your best friend doesn't have the common sense perspective anymore of how things should work, as it gets worse, as the world gets more fake, you get more real. As it all breaks down, it's the best news of all time because this whole reality then is here in a way. We're here to steal energy from you or to help you. We disagree in that bucket, some of us, as to what's actually going on. It's still great news because it's all here for you, which means you didn't come from Monkey Man and you're a timeless being. That's really the greatest news of all time. We can figure the rest out later. All right, guys, let's transition to the main thing that I wanted to talk to you about today. I don't know who's talked about this. I've been thinking about it for a while, but I've never heard it discussed. And after a brief summary, and I don't even know how to get into it, so I'll just get into it, I'll jump right to the most controversial part of this discussion. In terms of finding spiritual answers as to who we really are, where did we come from, what are we doing here, what's this life all about, it does bug me. And I've never mentioned this, why does one size fit all? Okay, why does one explanation have to fit all? There are many different places where this can be applied and where our thinking about who we are and where we came from may be very limited, but let me apply this right to the most controversial aspect. The Christians that are here like to be challenged. They like big thinking. How strong is a faith if it can't be challenged with different thoughts? And one final time, this is just so you understand what the topic is all about. This is something that's a legitimate question that I'll ask, but we can apply this to many different things. Why we always go back to one size fits all. So a Christian, I'm not really going out on a limb, saying that the way out is Jesus Christ. Okay, but here's my question. That might be the way out for you. See, why does that have to apply to everybody? See, why does that? Just because? I mean, I guarantee you don't have a good answer for that. Just because it has to. It has to. Why? Why does it have to? Meaning, you might be a different entity than I am. You and I, maybe, we already have noted the differences between us and someone like in the Minion class, like a Melvin P. We point out differences between you and me and people like us, people like you and people like me, and the NPC or your best friend who just can't see that it's not possible for a guy to be smiling and cackling and laughing the day after something happened. So we acknowledge over here that there are different types of people here. And if maybe there are 3 different types, well, how do you know there's not 5 different types? How do you know there's not 10 different types? So Jesus, if you're a Christian, could be the way out for you. Why is it a given that Jesus is the way out for me? A famous document in the United States says all men are created equal. In the body and the flesh, sure. But in terms of that word creation, this spiritual aspect, we know, I mean, this is not a stretch, guys, because we know you are not the same as a minion like Melvin P. And then we have Tony's explanation that was just incredible in terms of it matched up with my inner knowing, where he explained that, yeah, Matt, they're not the same as you. It's not just somebody that's been taken with Satan and Lucifer. Melvin P. and the minion ilk is not the same spiritual entity as you are, Matt. You have a whole different aspect of higher self. I hopefully took his interpretation right, but it's a lower spiritual entity that's more like it's game addicted, that doesn't have the same path out of here that you do. Potentially could be trapped here, but Tony doesn't think so. Just not willing to take the leap that you have been willing to take, coming in with a complete mind wipe. So we already acknowledge, whether you agree with whatever I've told you about what Tony's told me, we've sensed and we know we are not the same as the minion ilk. At the root level, we're not the same. Is it just as simple as we all came out of the same cat litter? Not like scratch litter, but like the litter when they're born. And it's just like, oh, well, they were taken with Satan. No, we sense we are fundamentally different. Look at Larry Silverstein, for example. I mean, do you just, if you stood next to him, just I hope you can hold your food in. I mean, are you the same spiritual entity? Everything in my being says no. So, and then we also threw out the idea of the NPC, a person that might not have a spiritual connection out of here. Their soul could be animated locally. Some people get offended. We shouldn't run a whole class of people down, Matt, and call them NPCs when we don't know. I agree. I'm being more respectful in the last few years of not saying that, not just a given that there's a whole soulless group here. There could be real boy Pinocchio whittled down to wooden Pinocchio, or the light is dimming. There's a lot of different possibilities. But the possibilities are there because we've all talked about this stuff many times over the years, that we're different fundamentally, different spiritually. If that's the case, why does it have to be limited to 2 different types, the minion class and us, or 3, the NPC, the minion class and us? Well, if there's 3, then there's likely there's 5. Maybe there's 10. Maybe, look, again, I'm going to move off the Christianity example, but maybe Jesus is the way out for you. That which means I'm obviously not the way out for me, but who's to say you and me? I'm not saying one is superior to the other, just we're different. How do we know? Because this world is so backwards and so inverted in almost every single place we look, if I back up and look down at reality, and reality screams consensus, even in our own community. No, Jesus is the way out. No, it's one or the other. Muhammad is the way out, or this or that. And again, this applies to more than just religion. That's where we are now. Then I say, if I see everybody marching to the same tune and lining up in the same way, then I know the answers in this reality lie somewhere else. There's probably been 1,000 comments to me over 14 years that, Matt, much of you probably read more than the Bible than you're leading on. A lot of your message is what Jesus Christ, the way he would want us to live our life. And Matt, you're so close. You really are a true Christian. I'm not at this point, and I don't see that Christ is my way out. Hey, anything's possible. I'm open to change. I'm just being very honest. It is not. But why are you applying that to me? Maybe somebody can put something in the comments, but my understanding is the Bible says very little about other religions. And I understand that if a few small religions existed with like 1,000 people over here, but I know Islam and Muhammad that came later, but there are other religions, Hinduism, Buddhism goes back thousands of years before Christianity. I don't understand why the Bible would be vague on how exactly a Christian should view the path of someone in other religions. I don't know if there's much of anything in the Bible on that. It's very, very vague. Why? Why wouldn't that be completely outlined, either just saying flat out that it is of the devil and they're fooled, or they're just going through a different process. So I have an issue with that as well. The one-size-fits-all argument, it's not just about religions. Wherever religion takes their camp, says ours is the right way and the only way. That doesn't sit. Anytime anybody says, I'm the only way, that doesn't sit right with me at the core spiritual level. It's not just about religions, though. How about the go into the light, don't go into the light at death discussion we've been talking about? Does anybody come out and say, well, this might be right for this group, but this might be right? No, it's always one size fits all. Anybody that vehemently comes out and says, don't you dare go into that light, that's a trap. That's a recycling trick. The people that would give that presentation, of course, you and I would agree, they're applying that to everybody equally. Why? That by itself, that ignores the fact that the minion class, look, guys, let me back up for a minute. It's almost a given. No matter what Tony told me or not, I sensed it. It is a given that this minion class is not the same as you are as an entity perspective or spiritually. It is alien by the definition of alien. So anybody's going to come give blanket advice on going to the light or not. Maybe certain spiritual entities, it wouldn't matter whether they go into the light or who. Guys, it's just, I'm sorry. It just screams to me, whether it be the religious conversation, don't go into the light or not. Whenever you apply one blanket answer to everybody, per the way I've observed this reality, that screams rudimentary and just wrong, and actually a little ignorant, sorry to say. Let's back up again. Would anybody listening to the words coming out of my mouth say that this reality is not a gigantic, massive trick and ruse? Ruse. Your cunning attempt to trick me, not Nilk. Everybody listening, and if you're new, go get a beer or something. Everybody listening would say this reality, to the highest factor, to the highest power, is a trick in every sense. So the answers that are put forth by a lot of different types of groups, religions, smart people, spiritual answers, are always one size fits all. We've only talked about two so far: religion, go into the light, don't go into the light. But it has to apply equally to everyone. See, then this reality is an inversion in every way. It's a trick in every way. Then I'm going to say, then that's not the answer. I should run to the other side and say there's 100 different answers for 100 different types of people. What is it? Why is a Seabiscuit quote coming into my mind? What is it? Jeff Bridges says, they say that War Admiral's perfect. He's upside perfect. He says, you show me something that's perfect, I'll show you something that's not. You show me a reality that's completely inversion, bastardization, adulterization, half backwards, and everything's all screwed up. And then when people have a one-size-fits-all answer, I'll show you something that's not. Apply the as above, so below. We're the below. This has got to be the below. I don't know. Just look around. This has got to be the below. In what applications of this below is one size fits all? How does that make, even in jeans, even in a 42 regular, a jacket, 35 waist with 32 length? Nothing in this reality below is one size fits all. I'm not just talking about clothing. I'm not joking. I'm talking about in everything. And your musical taste, is that one size fits all? The way do you like sweet or bitter tasting, or do you like your bacon real fatty like I do, just as floating in the fat, real spongy and rubbery like I like my pork on pork? Or do people just do the bacon and it's just like real crispy, and then they drain the grease 8 times? Like, if you're so worried about draining the grease, why are you eating the bacon in the first place? Don't make no sense. Have a rice cake if you don't want the grease. They're draining, then they put the paper towels and the bacon. Well, why are you worried about getting so much grease out of it? Look at the nature of the product in and of itself. It's grease, it's fat, it's pork on pork. Anyway, nothing down here in the as below is one size fits all. So as above, so below, as below, so above, as within, so without, or whatever you just keep going with that to sound smarter and smarter and smarter. I think that principle exists for a reason, and it goes back thousands of years and has its occult and esoteric Hermes Trismegistus or whoever that is lineage. These stuffed Lenins are carried through time for a reason. Okay, as now I'm confused. This is below, as above. Why would there be then one size fits all? That's not how anything works down here. In our community, we've acknowledged that pretty much everything here is a trick, and we've also acknowledged we almost never go far enough. So everything's a trick, but if I stand next to you in a police lineup, and then we bring in Larry Silver, and then we bring in Melvin, and we bring in Lady Gaga and some other people that you went to high school with, and we're in the same body. If we stub our toe, it all kind of feels the same, but then the whole reality is a trick, right? So why would we assume we're all the same? Why? It's like maybe with the They Live glasses, you could put them on and then see who Larry Silverfish really is, or your friend from high school. It's like some alien or something. You could see them spiritually, or you could see them etherically, whatever that means. Maybe it's like the bar scene or the cantina scene in Star Wars. Yeah, we go in and everybody seems the same in this reality, but if you could see who people truly were at the spiritual level, it could look like the cantina scene in Star Wars, if you could truly see them. I'm not saying there's thousands of different types, but there might be more than 3, and even us in this community saying 3, that's insane to your friend Tony, or the guy on the street, or your Aunt Ginny. It's different types of people. Didn't you read the Declaration of Independence, boy? All men are created equal. Everybody thinks we're all the same. Everybody thinks we're spiritually the same, and the way out is the same for everybody. It's my religion or the highway. Maybe it's like the cantina scene in Star Wars, if you could truly see with your They Live glasses. The guy with the nose turned up or whatever. He doesn't like you very much. I'm wanted on 3 systems. I'm sorry. Would you like a drink? We don't serve their type. You're droids. Sorry. Matt, you've imagined that scene one too many times. Yeah, I hold on to my first 3 Star Wars that are good. I even like the Ewoks. When Luke says to Leia, that's a Philly thing. Leia, it's Leia. Leia, hey Leia, bring me a cheesesteak and a Yingling. That's a beer everybody's all proud of up here. And now I know it's national or even international now. Yingling, it ain't that great. America's oldest brewery. All we had for years here in Pennsylvania was Rolling Rock before it was bought by Coors, and Yingling beer. Hey Leia, it's Leia. He said, Leia, you're my sister. He said, you're my sister, number 1 prostitute in all Kazakhstan. You're my sister. And she says, here's the point. It's inner knowing. She says, I know. I've always known. That's inner knowing right there. That's a truth drop, my friends. Matt, that ain't some giant truth drop or inner knowing spectacle. They're twins. They were in the womb together. Haven't you ever heard that before, Matt, that twins share a certain intuition where they can complete each other's sentences? I know they're not identical. They're different sexes. At least now they are. They probably are in the process of transitioning to something else. They're twins, Matt. Of course, well, if that's the case, then she should have known all along. Why'd she give him that big kiss? She gave Luke a gigantic kiss after he wasn't abandoned by that snow, that Yeti thing. He escaped the Yeti cave, and she gave him a big kiss. Should have creeped them out as soon as their lips touched, like the Wonder Twins. Back to, from a Christian perspective, the potential problems with one size fits all. It's a little bit of a long story. It relates to Genesis 1. And the work that Nigel W., we'll just say that, did on Genesis 1. Nigel died unexpectedly in 2022. I've never talked about it. Nigel and I had emailed back and forth. Some of you in our community know him. He taught English in China. And I know he had sent me some of his PDFs. He had done work on how literally Genesis, maybe it's not Genesis 1, but Genesis talks about the creation of, quote, man twice. There's the creation of Adam, but then there's also, it's a separate event. And what Nigel presented is pretty crystal clear. I mean, if you interpret the Bible literally, the creation of man is a separate event as it's presented in Genesis than the creation of Adam. So Nigel went on to determine this could be 2 completely different creations, or incarnations. that exist in this realm. Nigel, wherever you are, I wish you personally my best. But from a Christian perspective, he didn't make this up. It clearly talks about the creation of man. It's almost impossible to interpret anything different. There's the creation of man first, I believe, the 6 days, and God rested on the seventh, and then a whole separate, just 5-6 pages later, or 7 pages later, can't ever say 5 with the 6 together, then Matt might be giving a secret code or something. Matt can't mention 5 or 6 different numbers. He can never point to his eye. It talks about Adam separately. Right in Genesis, in the first few pages, people should be thinking about a difference amongst people that are here. Nobody does. One size fits all. What was Burger King? Even Burger King knew. Burger King, have it your way. Hold the pickles, hold the relish, hold the special sauce. Oh boy, I don't want to tell you what these kids these delinquents that worked at the King of Prussia Mall food court did to this guy's burger. This kid that I went to high school with. It's you don't even want to know. Hold the pickles. So he got something else in that burger. Matt, this was an intelligent conversation. You were doing well. What I was saying was even Burger King knows you have it your way. It's not just one size fits all. But then I'm thinking over about McDonald's. They serve the same hamburger the same way 80 billion times a year, and they grew faster than Burger King. Maybe I'll take it all back. Throw this video out. McDonald's proves it is one size fits all. The basics of Christianity, at least in my interpretation, it's pretty simple. A way out through Jesus Christ, through the worship and belief, and putting your trust in Jesus Christ. I appreciate simple messages, I really do. But that leads me, I know I'm straying here, but why are there so many different facets of Christianity if the message is that simple? Methodist, Episcopal, Baptist, Catholic, Protestant. It goes on and on. I don't, there's 20 others. I don't, Pentecostal. What's all that for? What if would the Pentecostals look over at the Methodists and say, well, as long as we have that basic page and we share that, brother, the belief in Christ as the way out, we're all going to go to heaven. Then what's all the other variation for? I know this doesn't, Matt, how does this relate to the other parts of this presentation? It doesn't, I guess. It doesn't make any sense to me. The endless splitting and fragmentation in all religion waters down the strength of the religion. I'm no expert on Islam and Muslims, but I know the Sunnis and the Shia. Some people in Philly say Shiite, Shia, and the Sunnis. And what do? They fight with each other. They try to kill each other. Isn't that what the Iran-Iraq war was basically about? And I guarantee the Sunnis don't be like, well, the Shias are going to be accepted into Allah's kingdom. No, they fight with each other. Well, then that means you're all wrong. It doesn't. If there was, I would take more stock in it if there was one unified message where there was no all these different facets of all these different religions, and they just had a unified message, consistency. Wow, these people, look how unified they are. The fragmentation of it makes me pay less attention to it. I'm sorry. I don't know much of anything about Buddhism or the Hindu religion, but I guarantee you these segments and these facets exist. Of course they do. It's just the way of man. I don't know, there's in Hindu, they put certain gods before others, or sects of Kali. I don't know anything about it. I shouldn't even talk, but I guarantee it's just the way of man. Constantly form camps, constant segmentation, of course, which I don't like to follow along what man, quote, man does and all his or her flaws. I reject that. I look for answers in other places. In fact, it seems to me, I don't know if this is some universal axiom that you can bank on, but as somebody is more real as a spiritual entity, then there's less of an opportunity that one size fits all is suitable to that person or must apply to that person as somebody gets more real. I'm not saying this properly, so the best way to go about finishing this conversation is to go to the opposite end of the spectrum from where you are and where I am, the creep class. That might be the place where one size does fit all, the creep class. And if that's the case, then as you go up the sliding scale towards real spiritual entities that aren't trapped or that are better and bigger and better incarnations, then one size doesn't fit all. Look at the homogeneity. And I guess they love that word now. Homogeneity, ChatGTP, that's a word. That has nothing to do with what month we're in, what day, or what year. They're all doing the same thing. Nobody gets out of line. When Budweiser decides to do a certain ad campaign, then miraculously, light beer from Miller does it to a lesser degree. And you don't think Walmart's going to ever get into trouble the way Target is. And they all march to the same tune. Nobody ever gets out of line. Whenever a celebrity says something like they're pushing back on woke, you and I can see that it's obviously part of the script. They're not getting out of line or pushing back. They all strive for the same rewards. Or Conan, what is best in life? Not going to do it. They all go for the same things in the same sort of way. This creep class, I mean, it probably is, if you could put the they live glasses on, we got one that can see. It would be a very homogeneous group, if that's even a word. What they're here to do is very narrowly defined. And what they're expected to do, or how they're expected to do it in their next lifetime, or however they recycle back, or it's narrowly defined. Whereas a spiritual being becomes greater, it is less narrowly defined. It just, wouldn't you think that what would apply to us would be the opposite of the creep class? But then, I'll just end it with this. A Christian would tell me, there's only one way out for me, and Matt, you're missing the boat, and you're screwed. I don't think it's that simple. I really don't. How do you know Jesus wouldn't say to you, why you apply all that was for you, man. Matt here, we've known each other. Well, how do you know? I mean, I don't know. But he said, well, Matt, that doesn't apply to Matt. What you needed to do here and with your Christian faith, why did you have to assign that to Matt? He's different than you. Better or worse. See, you understand basically what I'm saying here. Did anybody just try to scream blasphemy at me because I said something? I mean, again, I talk extemporaneously. I don't have no notes here. Said something about so Jesus knows Matt, or Matt knows. It says right in the Bible, Jesus knew you before you were born. That's not blasphemy. So if Jesus knew you before you were born, he knew me. Well, it's not a stretch to say that I knew him. Matt, you don't have to follow the same route. It's not. These people down here are going to think it is one size fits all, but it's not. It wasn't blasphemy. If anything, just don't, the real highest evolution of the spiritual being kind of sees that, take it way outside of religion, take it wherever you want, that if somebody's forcing one size fits all, the way this reality works and everything inside us tells us it's probably just the opposite of that. It's probably not one size fits all. Thanks for listening.